Boxing is, without a doubt, one of the most exciting sports and one of the most entertaining to watch. Watching two elite athletes fight is something many people are passionate about, but perhaps the most exciting part of a boxing match is a knockout. From the likes of Iron Mike destroying his opponents to Big George Foreman dropping his opponents, there have been many great knockouts throughout the sport's history. Stick around to learn about the best knockouts in boxing: Jose Zepeda and Josue Vargas. Two welterweight boxers, Jose Zepeda and Josue Vargas, faced off on October 30th this year. Tension between the two athletes had been steadily building up as Vargas, a younger and less seasoned fighter, continually trash-talked his opponent. Zepeda warned Vargas that boxing isn't a game, that this sport has levels. Zepeda also said that he was the one that wanted to fight me. I just accepted the fight. Although this loss will certainly shake up Vargas, with his young age, he'll have ample time to recover. Zepeda, meanwhile, his ambitions of winning the welterweight title against Josh Taylor, the current welterweight champion. Mike Tyson and Marvis Frazier. Tyson is remembered as one of the hardest punching boxers to ever glove up, and for good reason. With his relentless speed, aggression, and power, he was easily able to destroy opponents more than twice his size. His quickest knockout, however, was against Marvis Frazier. For boxing fans, the last name Frazier is undoubtedly familiar, as Marvis was the son of the legendary heavyweight Joe Frazier. Barely into the first round, Tyson backed Frazier up to the ropes and began to unleash a series of hooks and jabs into his opponent, dropping Frazier in only 30 seconds. The legend's quickest knockout. George Foreman and Fred Askew. Like Tyson, Foreman is remembered as one of the heaviest-handed boxers to ever fight. Big George first debuted as a pro back in 1969, and even at the very beginning of his career, he was already racking up knockouts. In one of his first fights against a fighter named Fred Askew, Foreman was able to drop his opponent in the first round. This was certainly foreshadowing his later dominance in the heavyweight division until he faced off against the likes of Ali and Frazier later into his career. Rocky Marciano versus Jersey Joe Walcott. Marciano is perhaps a lesser-known boxer to more casual fans, but is notable for his prestigious record. Rocky Marciano had 49 professional fights and he never lost a single one. He won 43 of the fights by knockout, earning him the highest knockout percentage in pugilistic history, an astounding 87.76%. Joe Walcott and Marciano fought off twice, Marciano taking the heavyweight belt from Walcott in their first fight. They squared off again 8 months later, but Walcott was clearly a far less capable fighter than he had been. Marciano knocked Walcott down after a series of hooks and uppercuts in the first round, his only first-round knockout throughout his career. Sonny Liston versus Floyd Patterson. Sonny Liston, nowadays perhaps is best known for getting dropped by Muhammad Ali's infamous Phantom Punch, but he's also known as the most intimidating boxer in history, as well as one of the hardest punchers. Tyson himself says that no one's more intimidating than Tyson, including himself. Liston was an absolute giant of a man, weighing 213 pounds and standing at 6'1", with a reach of 84 inches. 1962, he fought against then heavyweight champion Floyd Patterson. Patterson, however, despite being the champ, was the underdog going into the fight. Liston dropped Patterson in the first round with a left hook, taking the heavyweight belt for himself. Jack Dempsey versus Fred Fulton. Jack Dempsey is another lesser-known boxer from the turn of the 20th century. He's most comparable to Tyson, being a smaller heavyweight who was insanely aggressive at a time when boxing was a more relaxed, gentlemanly sport. Fulton was the top heavyweight belt contender, directly ahead of Dempsey. To win a title shot, Dempsey would first have to defeat Fulton. The two faced off in 1918, and despite Fulton being a 2-1 favorite against Dempsey, the smaller man was able to defeat Fulton in the first round. Dempsey would then go on to ultimately win the heavyweight belt. Mike Tyson versus Dan Kozad. It's only natural that a list of the fastest knockouts would feature Tyson pretty heavily. During his amateur career, Tyson already showed insane potential as a fighter, and at the Junior Olympics set the record for the fastest knockout in boxing history, an insane 8-second knockout into the first round. Tyson was facing off against Dan Kozad. Iron Mike came out aggressively and fast per his signature peekaboo style and dropped Kozad 8 seconds in with a right hook that landed square on Kozad's jaw. So far, we've covered the knockouts of legends as Tyson, Liston, Marciano, and others. Earning a knockout in boxing is hard enough, as power, timing, accuracy, and speed are all needed to land that perfect punch. But to do do so in the first round is an even more grandiose task. But there's more knockouts to cover, such as Ali's infamous Phantom Punch. Stick around to learn even more of the greatest first-round knockouts in boxing history. Muhammad Ali versus Sonny Liston. Perhaps Ali's most famous moment and Liston's most infamous was their face-off in 1964. Before he converted to Islam and adopted the moniker Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay was a young, upcoming, and promising boxer, renowned for his inhuman speed and footwork. Clay fought Liston for the belt and, during the 6th round, caught Liston to throw in the towel, earning Clay the heavyweight title. The two would face off again. The fight was already hyped with the tension between Ali and Liston exponentially growing. Ali dropped Liston in the first round with a right hook. However, the reason this match is remembered to such an extent is due to the controversy surrounding it. Some claim that Ali's hook was far too weak to drop Liston, leading to the name the Phantom Punch. Whatever the truth is surrounding the punch, the fight will continue to live on in memory. Roy Jones Jr. versus Luis Del Valle. Roy Jones Jr. versus Luis Del Valle were both lightweight boxers who had a history together. Del Valle claimed to have dropped Jones before sparring, to which Jones retorted that it was different when he was mad. Jones proved his words to be true when the two faced off in 1997. Jones hit Valle with an uppercut which dropped Valle, winning Jones the fight with only 30 seconds left in the first round. Ernie Shavers versus Jerry Quarry. Shavers, although perhaps not the technically best boxer, is considered to be the hardest single-punching boxer to ever don gloves. As Ali said when the two faced off, "He hit me so hard he rattled my ancestors' bones back in Africa." However, when Shavers faced off against Irish fighter Jerry Quarry, his power wasn't enough to get him the win. Quarry hit Shavers with a right uppercut and left hook before releasing a flurry of wild shots. Shavers went down and got back up. The fight was ultimately stopped by the ref, giving the win to Quarry. Ernie Shavers versus Ken Norton. Again, Shavers considered to be the hardest single-shot fighter in boxing history. His style wasn't the tightest or most elegant, but the 210-pound man more than made up for it in raw punching power. Shavers faced off against Ken Norton in 1979 and would go on to drop him around halfway into the first round. Norton was against the ropes and getting blasted by Shavers. Ken Norton tried to escape the barrage, but got caught with a hook and cross to the head that sent him to the canvas. He managed to get back up, only for Shavers to intercept him and hit him again with a hook and an uppercut, which once again sent Norton to the canvas. Norton's corner then signaled for the fight to end, giving Shavers the win. Juan Meza versus Jamie Garza. Most of the entries so far have been very one-sided, with the boxer dominating his opponent before landing a single punch that dropped his opponent. But boxing is an unpredictable sport, and a lot can change in a single round. Nothing highlights this more than the 1984 fight between Juan Meza and Jamie Garza. Garza was regarded as one of the strongest pound-for-pound fighters during his era and was seemingly on track to knock out Meza, as he managed to drop Meza in the first round at the 30-second mark. Meza, however, got up at the 8 count and hit Garza with a huge left hook that dropped Garza. The heavy hitter stumbled around and struggled to get up at the 8 count before the ref stopped the match, with only 6 seconds left in the first round. Thomas Hearns versus James Shuler. Hearns, better known as the Hitman, is another legendary boxer. Although his fight against James Shuler isn't as historically important as the likes of Ali versus Liston, it is still a memorable fight that ended with Hearns knocking Shuler out in the first round. Hearns came out in the first round, landing sharp left hooks to Shuler's body. Yet Shuler was seemingly unaffected by the Hitman's barrage. It didn't matter though, as Hearns went on to throw a jab followed by an incredibly sharp cross, which resulted in Shuler dropping motionless onto the canvas. Boxing is one of the most popular sports, even if it's been overshadowed by MMA in the modern day. Despite this, however, the sport, and in particular knockouts, continue to draw in fans, keep them watching. From the likes of Ali dropping the ultra-intimidating Liston, to Tyson landing thundering hooks and uppercuts to drop men twice his size, there is no shortage of spectacular knockouts in boxing. So what do you think? Are there any fights we missed? Leave your comments down below. Thank you for watching.